responsibly. The government will distribute the first 1,000 plants at a convention today. As the interest in cannabis across that country grows, the health minister warned consumers to not abuse the substance. Thailand legalized medicinal marijuana in 2018 and is now looking to develop it as a cash crop. Still ahead.
We sat down with Holly's grandmother here in Volusia County. She says it's a blessing to know that her granddaughter is alive and well. Now she's praying for answers in the murder of her son and daughter-in-law. June 7th, the day Donna Casasanta's son was born, and the day she found out her granddaughter was alive after 40 years.
And the reason I know that is it was Junior's birthday, and it was like a gift from heaven. Because we found out she was alive and she's okay on his birthday.
Donna's son, Harold Dean Klaus Jr., who went by Junior, and his wife Tina Klaus disappeared with Holly in 1980. The family had just moved from New Smyrna Beach to Texas for a job opportunity. Officials say Junior and Tina's bodies were discovered in 1981 in Houston, but they weren't identified until last year. The couple had been murdered. The Texas Attorney General's office releasing new, bizarre details about the case Thursday. They told us that someone named Sister Susan contacted the Klaus's families in late 1980 or early 1981 to return their car.
She further stated that Tina and Dean had joined their religious group and no longer wanted to have contact with their families. They were also giving up all of their possessions. Sister Susan asked for money in exchange for returning the car to Florida, where the family lived.
Investigators also say women from a religious group left baby Holly at a church in Arizona. Casasanta says her son may have trusted the wrong people.
I have a built-in radar, I think. I know when I'm in danger. I just know it, and maybe he doesn't have that, I don't know.
As the homicide investigation continues, she's getting to know her granddaughter.
And we never gave up. We never gave up.
To users' friends. They also use promotions with items specifically made to look interesting to the elderly and underprivileged. And listen up, the IRS is sending letters to millions of Americans suspected of underpaying their taxes. The IRS mails roughly 9 million of those letters every year, and the letters will tell people who underpaid how much they owe, and they're going to request that payment within 21 days. Now, if you receive one of the letters, don't ignore it, because the penalties and the interest will add up quickly. Still ahead, see what happens when a 100...
Somebody's rugrat run off.
Yes, I saw that. I just seen the car.
Don't know what this is gonna be, but it ain't the red no more.
More on the message the city has for the men and women in blue as firefighters are set to get significant raises.
Plus 2 mall shootings just minutes apart in the U.S. It's as massive gun control rallies are set to be held across the nation tomorrow, including in and around Atlanta.
Plus nuisance properties coming down in South Fulton, how the city is tackling crime and health hazards head on. But first,
January 6th was the culmination of an attempted coup.
Second half of the government at City Hall, it gets a chance to weigh in on this formally starting next week on Wednesday when the Finance Committee takes up the budget. From Buckhead, I'm Morse Diggs, Fox 5 News.
Yeah, compensation. Our rangers have looked ever since, but bad weather has delayed their efforts. Searchers found the victim in 13 feet of water. Authorities haven't released his name. Officials remind you that it's imperative to wear a life jacket while on the water this summer. Police are investigating 2
on this abandoned house.
And I'm very excited and happy to see it being torn down, because it has been a major complaint for the citizens of this community. Crime, vandalism, and also people coming in and living on the properties.
Code enforcement
Enforcement Supervisor George Terrell says the city was finally able to demolish the residence thanks to the city's Fight Against Blight program. It's the 5th dilapidated property to be demolished since the program's launch.
It needs to be coming down for a long time.
Garth Hewitt's residence backs up to the property.
Just an eyesore. We just live right behind it. Oh. And the people used to put garbage all over in there.
The city's Community Development and Regulatory Affairs Department oversees the program and has identified more than 60 blighted properties for demolition and abatement action since the city's inception. Officials say problems associated with those properties existed for more than a decade before the city of South Fulton was established.
But we want to clean.
North Carolina, just west of Charlotte. Medics rushed the 2 women and 2 men and 1 woman to the hospital with minor injuries. Investigators are in the process of interviewing 2 possible suspects.
3 people also hurt at a mall shooting in Prince George's County, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. Police say the injuries are non-life-threatening. The suspect remains on the run, but authorities say there's no active threat to the community at this time. This comes as organizers have planned more than 450 March for Our Lives gun safety rallies across the United States this weekend.
In Washington, the youth-led movement kicks off at noon at the Washington Monument. Speakers will include families of victims from the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and the supermarket shooting in Buffalo, New York. The March for Our Lives organization started after the Parkland, Florida shooting massacre.
Marchers will also be in and around Atlanta. Events will take place at the Snellville Town Green at 11, Gainesville Square at noon, Marietta Square at 1, and Ebenezer Baptist Church at 1 o'clock. It comes as gun legislation
with his counterparts from Southeast Asia countries in Singapore today. Austin met with Indonesia's defense minister as well as Singapore's defense minister. Austin is set to be a featured speaker this weekend at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. It is Asia's premier defense and security forum. Ukraine's national colors are a familiar sight these days, but maybe the country's wines are not. Despite the ongoing war with Russia making production difficult, they still have ambitions to expand their businesses. The nation has a long history of winemaking going back centuries.
Of invasive species that are prone to taking over the canopy and preventing new growth from happening.
There are several volunteer opportunities with Trees Atlanta. You can learn more about the conservation at 40 Forest and the organization's website, treesatlanta.org.
And we look how they want to bust the border wide open, opening the floodgates for good. Warnock isn't working for us. 34N22 is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Seattle tonight. Jake, what's behind the latest increase?
Tom and Courtney, a lot of it is because demand is increasing. Summer always sees more people doing some driving, and that's a big reason why prices haven't gone down. In the last week, the cost of a gallon is up more than 20 cents to just under $5 a gallon. That's almost $2 more than this time last year. And even though the national average isn't quite at that $5 a gallon mark, folks in plenty of states are paying at least that much. West Coast states like here in Washington, Oregon, and California are all paying more than $5 a gallon. Across the country, Pennsylvania, New York, and Washington, D.C. are also paying similar prices. A spokesperson with Gas Buddy says supply issues could lead to even higher prices this summer.
Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard is in Washington with more.
On the heels of another record inflation report, President Biden reacted from the Port of Los Angeles.
I understand Americans are anxious, and they're anxious for good reason. And I'm going to work with anyone, Democrat, Republican, Independent, to deliver real solutions for families.
The May Consumer Price Index showed an 8.6% increase year over year. That staggering inflation rate is hurting Americans' confidence in the economy.
It's not temporary. It's not transitory. It's causing real hardship for people, and it seems to me the Biden administration has no strategy now to deal with it.
According to the Labor Department, the price of groceries, staples like eggs, meat, and milk are all up double-digit percentages from a year ago.
I think what they're doing is they're buying what they need, not what they want.
Gas is now just cents away from $5 a gallon on average across the country. Many states are already over that.
Oh, it's hurt me. It's hurt me bad.
The administration says they are staying out of the Federal Reserve's way as they raise interest rates to try to bring down inflation.
The president is focused on lowering costs for families, reducing the deficit, respecting the independence of the Fed, because he recognizes those are strategies to address inflation.
President Biden also called on Congress to crack down on global shipping companies, blaming them for drastically hiking their prices, which are ultimately passed along to the consumer. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Hey, inflation, how you doing there, buddy? You hanging in there? Yeah, ain't got no other choice, do you?